She stared at the cold cup of coffee between her trembling hands and said the words that had been suffocating her for years, words heavy with rejection, fear, and quiet shame. She said men don't like single moms. The air between them felt like glass about to shatter, and she braced herself for the familiar disappointment, for the polite smile, the awkward excuse, the slow retreat she had seen too many times before. She had learned to expect that reaction. She had trained her heart not to hope. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of compassion, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Brightly Kindness. Your support helps spread stories that remind us how deeply humanity still matters. It was a small outdoor cafe on a quiet street, the kind where life moved slowly and conversations felt personal. Her 2-year-old son sat beside her, tiny fingers wrapped around a piece of bread, unaware that his mother's heart was hanging in the balance. She looked exhausted in a way that sleep could never fix. Not because she lacked strength, but because she had carried too much alone for too long. The stroller by her side was not just a baby carriage. It was proof of responsibility, resilience, and the silent battles she fought every day. She had not planned her life to look this way. She had once believed in promises whispered late at night and futures painted in warm colors. But life had a way of shifting without warning. When her partner walked away before their son even learned to say mama, she learned something painful. People can leave, but responsibility never does. She rebuilt herself from fragments, working double shifts, skipping meals, ignoring her own loneliness so her child would never feel the absence of love. Dadding, she discovered, was not kind to women like her. She had sat across from men who smiled at her until they saw the stroller. She had heard polite sentences that carried sharp edges. She deserved someone better, someone simpler, someone without complications. The word complicated became a shadow that followed her everywhere. Slowly, she began to believe that maybe love was reserved for women without stretch marks, without bedtime routines, without little hands tugging at their sleeves. That afternoon she had almost canceled. She had nearly convinced herself that it was foolish to try again, but something about him felt different. He had not flinched when she mentioned her son. He had asked about him, about what made him laugh, about what frightened him at night. Still, she couldn't silence the fear coiled inside her. Experience had taught her that curiosity did not always equal commitment. When she finally said the words, when she confessed that men don't like single moms, she did not look at him. She stared at her son instead, as if apologizing for even trying to imagine a life where someone might choose both of them. She expected him to grow quiet. She expected him to change the subject. She expected the familiar distance. But his reaction shocked her. He did not look uncomfortable. He did not laugh it off. He did not reach for his phone or glance toward the exit. Instead, something in his expression softened, not with pity but with understanding. He leaned forward, not away. He watched her son struggle to hold the bread with small, clumsy hands, and without hesitation, he gently adjusted the napkin under the child's fingers so it wouldn't fall. It was a simple gesture, almost invisible. But it was the first time in years that a man's instinct had been to protect, not to withdraw. She looked up, confused by his calm. He spoke quietly, not in defense, not in argument, but in truth. He told her that strength was not something to run from. He said that raising a child alone did not make her less desirable, it made her extraordinary. He admitted that many men might fear responsibility, but fear did not define all men. He said that love was not about finding someone without a past. It was about choosing someone whose past made them braver. She searched his face for signs of insincerity. She had become an expert at spotting half-hearted promises, but there was no performance in his eyes, only steadiness. He did not speak as if he were rescuing her. He spoke as if he respected her. In the weeks that followed, he did something no one else had done. He stayed. He showed up not only for dinners and walks, but for pediatric appointments, for grocery runs, for evenings when exhaustion turned her patience thin. He learned the rhythm of her son's laughter. He memorized the way the child's eyes lit up at the sight of pigeons in the park. He never tried to replace anyone. He simply became present. Her greatest challenge was not trusting him. It was forgiving herself for believing she was unworthy. For so long, she had equated her single motherhood with failure. Society's whispers had grown louder than her own courage, but watching him kneel on the living room floor to build blocks with her son began to rewrite something inside her. She started to see herself through a different lens, not as damaged, not as rejected, but as resilient. There were still moments of doubt, nights when she lay awake wondering if it was temporary, if kindness could fade. Trauma does not disappear easily. It lingers, cautious and protective. But each time fear surfaced, he answered it not with grand speeches but with consistency. He showed her that love was not a dramatic declaration. It was a pattern of care repeated daily. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in gold, her son reached for his hand without hesitation. It was a small hand trusting a larger one, and in that silent gesture she realized something powerful. Her child did not see categories like single mom or complicated life. He saw safety. He saw warmth. He saw someone who stayed. She thought back to that cafe table, to the woman who had whispered that men don't like single moms. She barely recognized her now. That woman had been tired of fighting alone. This woman understood that the right person does not see a burden. The right person sees a story worth joining. If this story has touched your heart so far, please pause and comment. Second chances are real below. Your words might encourage someone reading through the comments who feels alone today. Life did not suddenly become perfect. Bills still needed to be paid. Tantrums still happened. Some days were chaotic, but something fundamental had shifted. She no longer felt like she was asking to be accepted. She felt chosen, and that difference changed everything. Love, she learned, is not about finding someone who ignores your reality. It is about finding someone who steps into it willingly. His reaction had shocked her because she had grown used to rejection. But what truly transformed her was not his surprise response. It was his steady presence afterward. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness still exists and that no one is too complicated to be loved, please like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps spread stories that inspire hope. And don't forget to subscribe to Brightly Kindness to keep believing in second chances. Because somewhere, right now, someone is sitting at a cafe table believing they are too much to be loved. And maybe all they need is one person brave enough to stay.